did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Open up my eyes! I never misspelled anything! Not once, not one time!
Welcome back to another Hilariocity. It is Hilariocity Sunday. Last weekend was Retro Rewind. I talked about Tremors. Tons of fun. But in the spirit of DC Comics and their past mistakes, let's talk about Supergirl. They actually tried to make a mini DC universe back in the day, incorporating this into the Christopher Reeve universe. They didn't do it right. This film begins with some very shiny opening credits that were clearly inspired by Richard Donner's opening titles for Superman the movie. Now, I didn't remember much about Supergirl. I had seen some of it on TV as a kid. I didn't really remember much about this movie. Rewatching it, though, I was absolutely blown away to discover that Peter O'Toole is in this movie, and he plays a character named Zoltar. What is this, Space Ghost Coast to Coast? I'm expecting Brack to show up telling jokes and Moltar to be over on the keyboard DJing this whole thing for us. And while Peter O'Toole is in fact an excellent actor, his performance in this movie is horrendously over the top.
I don't believe you. How?
In that. Through that.
And we're now introduced to Supergirl, and she seems almost like a child, like a baby almost, like she's experiencing things for the first time. She's amazed by everything she sees. It's almost like she was just born 5 minutes ago, quite literally actually. Zoltar is showing her some kind of wizardry with god-awful visual effects, and this movie's insane, people. I mean, it gets really trippy. It really does. She starts bringing to life a dragonfly with some sort of wizardry that kind of flies around. And then she almost gets sucked out into the void of space because the barrier surrounding their little world rips. And this barrier is plastic. I mean, it's plastic. Don't tell me that that's some kind of Kryptonian armor shield or some bullshit. That's plastic. Zoltar is harnessing something called the Omega Hedron. He keeps calling it that. Apparently it's the thing that powers their city, because when that thing blasts into space, Supergirl just without a second thought hops in some sort of spacecraft after it. And we get the necessary exposition where her parents inform us that this Omega Hedron device powers their entire world. They will lose everything without it.
Without it, this city can't survive more than a few days.
Our lights will grow dim and the very air we breathe so thin.
So after this exposition-heavy, horrifically inept opening, I'm terrified. Watching this movie the other day, preparing for this review, I actually got chills down my body in the worst possible way, realizing that I was about to watch a 2-hour film that thought that was the opening to hook me. And oh my god, these visual effects are amazing. No, they really suck, actually. They're pretty terrible. So back on Earth, we meet Selina, played by Faye Dunaway. She's the main villain of this entire film. She's a witch, and she has a friend who explains how to become invisible.
Take 5 black beans on the head of a dead man. Place 1 bean in his mouth, 2 beans in his eyes.
Oh my god, this is going nowhere good. So these people find the Omega Hedron because it landed on Earth, of course. Where else would it land? And this thing apparently can do anything. It is the all-powerful device that can accomplish everything ever. So what does the Omega Hedron do? Everything. Cool, because then nothing has to make sense and I can just do whatever I want. Screenwriting. So Supergirl lands in the water and she just bursts out of the water in full costume, just as Supergirl right there. She's just instantaneously Supergirl. What an interesting character. I mean, I really care a lot about this character that I know nothing about. Now, if I thought the film was bad already, this is when it gets even worse. She picks up a flower and uses her heat vision to make it bloom. Is this because she's a girl? Superman's heat vision can kill, but Supergirl's heat vision can make flowers bloom. So she soon realizes that on Earth she can fly, and for whatever reason they decided to make this very artsy. It's like the independent artsy version of Supergirl flying with all these incredibly shitty shots like behind branches. I'm still having a hard time getting over the fact that there is no attempt to even remotely explain why she is Supergirl. This film just expects everyone to have seen Superman the movie. And with that knowledge, we now know that girl from this place is Supergirl because she's a superhero. And this screenplay makes no sense I mean, none! And we will get into more reasons why. So she runs into two rapists because, of course, they're just rapists walking around looking for Supergirl. And after she explains that she is in fact Superman's cousin and uses her super breath to blow one of them away, this guy pulls out a knife and he's ready to fight. And then she uses her heat vision on the knife and it works correctly this time. Earlier it made a flower bloom. This time it actually works the way it's supposed to. And despite that happening, he still challenges her. And I'm like, dude, this is not a good idea for you. You're dumb. So back to Faye Dunaway as Selina, the witch in this film. Every scene with her is just her discussing world domination. That's all her character is. Of course, I mean, what else could they possibly have done? Because every villain just wants to rule the world.
Such a pretty world. I can't wait until it's all mine. I'm considering nothing less than world domination.
Now this is where the film lost me entirely. Earlier I wasn't invested, but I was at least watching it. This is where, I'm not kidding, I almost turned it off. I'm serious. I almost was like, screw it, I'm not doing this video. She sees some girls in school uniforms, and she decides to adopt said school uniform and go to this school for no reason. Her entire world is in jeopardy. Do you remember what her parents said?
Without it, this city can't survive more than a few days.
Our lights will grow dim and the very air we breathe so thin.
Yeah, like her whole family and all of her friends, they're all gonna die. And she decides to go to school. She's here to find the Omega Hedron thing. Why is she going to school? So let's talk about A&W. A&W, they gave him some money. Yes. A&W was like, hey, Supergirl, you like root beer, don't you? And then the one attempt to in some way create a universe with the DC movies of the 70s and 80s, she finds a picture of Christopher Reeve. That is all they could do. I understand that Christopher Reeve had originally planned a cameo in this movie, but more than likely, this smart, talented man was like, no. Your script is ass. So this is when the witches like start their big evil plan. And their scheme is to cast a spell on some hunky guy so that this man can just like be their servant. How devious. And by the way, this guy's Ellis from Die Hard. Now I know why he was addicted to cocaine in that film. Around this time in the movie, I realized this film has no narrative. There's no plot. There is no thorough line of a story. It's just random shit over and over again. Here's some witches. They're trying to cast a spell on Ellis from Die Hard. Oh, here's Jimmy Olsen. Here's Supergirl just going to a school. So these witches then use black magic to cause Ellis to be chased by this thing. And by the way, I'm just going to keep calling him Ellis because I don't even know what his name is in this movie, and I don't really give a shit. This causes a gigantic, bloated Looney Tunes domino piece extravaganza where like one thing will knock over into something else, which knocks over something else, which causes something else to roll around. This was their idea of a set piece, I guess. And in this scene, I noticed something. This place, Little Chapel of Roses. This was also in the earlier scene with the rapist people. Did they not have permission to film in more than just like one location? So Supergirl saves the day, I guess. I don't know. She did something and people didn't die. And then there's this really crazy line that just really, I was like, this whole movie's weird, but then this just doesn't make any sense at all. Just watch.
A storm dragon? A Supergirl.
A storm dragon. What does that mean? I mean it. Like, I care more about learning what that means than I do about even finishing this review right now. What the fuck does that mean? Who is that girl? I don't know. A Skrullerburger? What is that girl? I don't know. A Splaggadoo? What is that girl? I don't know. A Skigabujizga? Like, who wrote So Selina's black magic curse doesn't work because the first girl that Ellis sees is Supergirl. She was originally supposed to be the first girl that he saw, Selina, and that didn't work out. So now Ellis is in love with Supergirl, and this is our movie. I'm serious. This guy's under a spell to be in love with Supergirl, and he follows her everywhere. And Supergirl's like, no, no. So since she isn't really into this guy, she apparently decides to experiment and thinks, I'm just gonna go try to kiss myself in this mirror. What? Like, what is this? What's happening? This movie's crazy, people. This movie's crazy. So Selina casts another kind of spell, and now the wind is after Supergirl. That's right. This movie did it before The Happening. She confronts this invisible force because there's no other villain for her to fight, so I mean, it might as well be the wind. So she grabs a lamppost, flies into the storm, and lets lightning strike it a whole bunch of times, and then she, like, uses it, like, as a weapon against the thing. None of this movie, none of it, okay? None of it works. Now, I actually wrote in my notes that right here I stopped the film to see how much longer I had, and I still had 50 more minutes. So now it's Selina versus Supergirl, and I'm telling you, these effects are laughably awful. There's no tension. There's no stakes. I honestly want to turn it off. I hate it. I hate it. I hate watching this movie. It's so bad. And I know what you're thinking. Well, then, Chris, aren't Hilariocity supposed to be entertaining? Guys, there are different types of hilariosities. I've said this a billion times. There's guilty pleasures. There's movies that are so bad they're good. And then there are movies that are so hilarious that they even got made. And Supergirl is that movie. And still, I must remind you, isn't her entire world and everyone she loves and cares for in danger of dying?
Without it, this city can't survive more than a few days.
Our lights will grow dim and the very air we breathe so thin.
Don't worry, guys. She's on Earth discovering love and going to school. Everything's gonna be fine. No, you're all gonna die, actually. So next, Supergirl decides to eat a coconut. Why did I say I would review this? So I guess the spell on Ellis gets broken, but he still really loves Supergirl anyway. Yay! And then Selina, with the flick of her wrist and the Omega Hedron, creates a mountain. This mountain just appears in this small town, and everyone's like, hey, there's a mountain. That's weird. Huh. That's strange. Oh, back to our everyday lives. Supergirl flies up to the mountain, confronts Selina, and somehow Selina traps her in the Phantom Zone for like 5 seconds before she arrives on cheap-ass version of Mordor. Within a few minutes, there is already an uprising of people in this town, including a picket line against Selina for this mountain. This movie is broken. This thing is more broken than Superman 64. This thing is fucked. And when Supergirl wakes up in this cheap-ass Mordor, she gets scared by a skeleton. That reminds me of an earlier line she said.
I am Kara of Argo City, daughter of Alora and Zor-El, and I don't scare easily.
Apparently you actually do. What a great script! So Zoltar shows up. He's trapped there too. Selina then captures all the principal characters because we need all of them to be captured so that Supergirl can be Supergirl. And Zoltar is obsessed with this squirt thing. He keeps talking about it over and over again, and it's really disturbing me. I mean it. It's disturbing the shit out of me.
Squirt. Squirt.
What is he talking about? If he wants her to have a drink, just say, would you like a drink? Quit calling it that. It's making me have goosebumps. It's disgusting. Like, what is he saying? Like, I hate it. I hate that. That is the most annoying thing I think I've ever heard in a movie. That line.
Forget I mentioned it. Have a squirt instead.
I hate it so much. That annoys the shit out of me. What is that? Why? Why couldn't he just say, do you want a drink? Quit calling it that.
Sure? You won't have a squirt?
Oh god, that's so annoying. So there's this really awkwardly long sequence inside of a swirly red tornado because apparently that's the way you get out of the Phantom Zone because the place where you get trapped in forever, of course, has an exit. Zoltar dies and just look at this shot. Just look at it. Just stare at it and look at it. Now, think about the fact that I had to watch 2 hours of this. So Supergirl gets really mad and just instantaneously flies out of the Phantom Zone and arrives at Selina's house. Selina starts then like rumbling the floor. She uses her spells or magic or whatever to make the floor rumble and tumble like an earthquake. Supergirl can fly. Why is this affecting her adversely? All she has to do is float up. She can fly. I just wanted Peter Pan to zoom in the window and say this to her. You can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly, you can fly. Because then she would have been like, oh yeah, I can fly. I forgot. So the power of shadow or something like appears and starts stretching Supergirl like she's Stretch Armstrong. This looks unforgivable. I'm serious. It's like the whole movie before you were like, oh, it looks really bad. But right here it's just like, what? Why would you do that? Why would you even make this? Why would you even release this? Just be like, oh, sorry, we lost all of our film reels. We can't release Supergirl, sorry. That would have been the better choice. So she overcomes that and just like turns into a tornado and sucks everything up. You don't even get the sense that Supergirl actually did anything. She just turns into a tornado and just sucks everything up. And she wins. So bad. So the mountain just disappears with no explanation, of course. I've grown used to not having anything make sense. And she flies underwater into her ship and goes back home, I guess. And you don't get to see her family saved or anything. Like, the whole stakes of the movie was her family dying and, like, her city dying. And what was this movie about? She went to school. I think people liked A&W root beer. Oh my god, I thought Superman 4 was bad. That's my review of Supergirl. I'm very sorry, my dear. You were done poorly. This is a much nicer version. I'll put you there. Guys, that's my Hilariocity review of Supergirl. I hate it. Might be my least favorite DC Comics movie because it was just so bad. Like, Batman and Robin's bad. Steel with Shaquille O'Neal. These are both Hilariocity reviews I've already done. Those are bad movies, but they're funny at least. Supergirl is just atrocious. It really is a movie they should have just been like, whoops, we lost the reels, sorry, we're not going to release it. But as I promised, I would let you guys know what next week's Retro Rewind is going to be.
Continuing in the vein of DC Comics related things that are crappy, I thought next week's Retro Rewind could be, I don't know, maybe a discussion on something really terrible. Maybe a past experience, something traumatizing. It's definitely not going to be a review for Superman 64. So definitely don't look forward to a retro rewind of Superman 64. I am definitely not going to try to beat this game on camera. Definitely don't look forward to that next week.
You're the best. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.